as we always intend to do, and I'm recording it, so I can sort of share it after. So a few sort of well dones throughout the week. So Sean, sorry, someone just needs to join. Sean managed to get in 20k of cycling last week, so well done to Sean. Alana's only just recently joined, and she's up to her 10th workout already, so well done to Alana. Shiv's up to 20 hours of HIIT training since joining in January, so well done to Shiv. And Christian's been pretty consistent with his yogas. I know we all sort of tried making something a commitment to do something outside of fuel and movement, and he's been pretty consistent with doing that. So maybe just have a little check yourselves, making sure you are still doing that commitment that you made at the start of the program. You know, not about food, not about movement. Sorry, someone else just joined. Yeah, just making sure you're checking yourself on that commitment that you made outside of your food, outside of your movement. You know, are you still doing that thing? Lots of us said about doing a bit of mindfulness or reading before bed or whatever it might be. Are you still doing that thing? You know, now we're sort of several weeks into whatever, you know, whenever you started. So this evening I just wanted to sort of provoke some thought, I guess. So we're going to look at fuel. So we're going to dive back into that fuel circle, and what we know about fuel is that our calories are made up of three things. Okay, so your calorie target, whatever it might be, will come from your carbs, your fats, and your protein. And generally speaking, a rough sort of balanced approach to this would be a 30% of your calories coming from proteins, 40% coming from carbs, and then 30% from fats. Now, some of you, I would have put you on a really low fat diet at some point, and that would have looked more like a 30% protein. So that stays the same, 50% carbs and 20% fats. But the point here is that your fats would have been sort of between 20 and 30%, because that's what we're going to look at tonight. So obviously a couple of weeks ago we looked at carbs. So if you weren't here a couple of weeks ago, a couple of our sort of key take homes in regards to carbs were that we want to aim for complex carbs where possible. These are things such as whole grains, vegetables and fruits. And what makes them complex is that they still have their fiber and vitamins. And because that fiber is present within the carbohydrate, it slows down that release of energy and stops that sort of spike in our blood sugar levels. We want to really try and minimize as much as possible the refined sugar that we're taking. So those really, really simple carbohydrates, those processed ones, we want to try and minimize those as possible. And then when we're consuming those simple carbohydrates, such as white rice, white pasta, and white bread, we want to be making sure that that's paired with fibrous vegetables. And really we're consuming them around workouts. So they're really, really good to take in energy before we work out, but they're also really, really good to replenish the energy that we've used afterwards as well. So that's just a slight little recap. So let's go into fats then. So that's what we're going to talk really, really briefly about tonight. So fats, as I said, should make up roughly about 20 to 30% of your daily calories. The guys that went on a 20% sort of fat target did sort of feedback that is really, really low, and that's actually a really, really difficult thing to stick to. Whereas 30% is a lot more balanced and it's a lot more comfortable. And so there's probably some things that fats do that you're probably not aware of. And really, if we take in good fats, and we'll go through what they are in a minute, there's a few things that they'll sort of do. So the first thing they'll do is they'll support your hormone production and brain function. They'll also help your body absorb some nutrients. Now there's I forget which vitamins they are, maybe like A, D, I think K are your fat soluble vitamins, and so the fat intake will help you digest those. And then they'll also provide your sort of long-term energy use as well. So once your body's gone through all of your carbohydrate reserves, you then start eating into your fat reserves. Your fats then become your energy source. And really, this is the reason that LIST training, so low intensity steady state training, is really good, because over a long period of time you'll burn through your calories and then you'll start burning into your fats. That's why that's good for losing weight. And also, this is sort of the whole premise behind a calorie deficit. So the quicker, if we were in a calorie deficit, we've got less energy, then our body will burn through those carbohydrates quicker and start getting into those fats quicker. All right, so just a little bit of background for you there. So when we look at fats, we've really got three main types. We have our unsaturated fats, our saturated fats, and our trans fats. Now, when we look at unsaturated fats, these should be making up around sort of 2/3 to 3/4 of our fat intake. So if you look at your fat intake, which will probably be around your body weight, maybe a little bit less. I know when the guys were on the 20% fat target, that was sort of half body weight. So sort of 30% would be towards body weight. So 75% of that should be consumed around these sort of unsaturated fats. So these are sort of natural fats that come from olive oil, avocados, and nuts. Fatty fishes are mainly salmon and mackerel. And then your flax seeds and your chia seeds will work with your omega-3. I don't know about you, but I was used to take an omega-3 tablet when I was a kid. It tastes like fish. But yeah, so yeah, your chia seeds and your flax seeds will help with your omega-3 as well. So I think pretty much most of us are having those flax seeds and chia seeds in the morning. We've definitely started introducing some more fatty fishes into our diet, and then avocados as well. So they're the good fats. They're the fats that we want to make sure that we're consuming. We want to make sure that we are consuming about 75% of our fats from that group. Now, the rest of that fats we want to make up from our saturated fats. So these are things that we find maybe in butter, in whole milk, in red meat. Obviously, the fat on a steak would be a saturated fat, and coconut oil is another example there. But we want to make sure that we're not eating these things excessively. So like I said, a good ratio would be around 2/3, 3/4 unsaturated, and then sort of a third, sort of a quarter would be saturated. And the things that we need to really avoid eating are our trans fats. Now, trans fats are found in processed foods, in margarines, in sort of easy spreadable butters, and fried foods as well. And the reason that we want to do that mainly is because these trans fats, and I don't know the science behind it, but essentially it's the makeup of the trans fat cause our body cause inflammation in our body. Now, inflammation, as you know, is sort of like our body's defense process. If we sort of cut ourselves or if we roll our ankles, it is no different. So if we cause inflammation to our body, it's our body's sort of defensive process. And by eating, if we eat too much sort of trans fat, we will end up sort of having this sort of chronic inflammation. It just means that inflammation that has happened over a longer period of time. So every single time that our body has to react to whatever's being put inside of us, it causes inflammation in the body, and over time that will become more and more problematic. Now, the reason I say this is because it's actually the unsaturated fats that fight that process. So it's the unsaturated fats that fight inflammation. It's the trans fats that increase inflammation. So what we want to try and do is make sure we minimize, if not take out, eradicate completely the trans fats that we're eating, and making sure that we have like a nice, healthy, high amount of sort of unsaturated fats within our diet. As I said, sort of 75% of our fat intake in that. So just a couple of things for you to sort of think about, I guess, is when we think about our carbohydrate makeup, is there some really quick wins that we can make? If you think about the food that you've eaten within the past 7 days, can you think of any really quick and simple wins where you could substitute a simple carbohydrate for a complex carbohydrate? We had, I forget, we had like a turkey bolognese this week, and we had brown spaghetti as opposed to a white spaghetti, and actually you could barely taste the difference, and actually it sort of had more substance to it anyway, because it just took a little bit longer to boil, but actually had a little bit of substance to it, and it didn't just go all mushy. So sort of my first sort of thing for you to think about was, if you think about the last 7 days, is there somewhere in there that we can just have a little win by just sort of shifting from a simple carbohydrate to a complex carbohydrate? The next thing I want you to sort of think about is, if you, for those of you that are still tracking, like some of you are still tracking religiously and doing amazing with that, can you sort of maybe go back and just have a look at your diary and have a look at what is your saturated to unsaturated ratio, just out of curiosity, just for your own good more than anything. So we should be seeing a sort of 75-25 sort of ratio, or 66 sort of 33 ratio in obviously in favor of those unsaturated fats. And then the last thing to consider is, are you actually eating enough fat? So are you hitting that fat target? Each and every day, are you hitting that fat target that you set you? I think roughly speaking for the boys would be about 80 grams roughly, probably. So are you hitting that consistently? And of those fats, are they good? Are they those good fats? Are they those nuts? Are they avocados, fish, etc., etc.? So really, just to finish, just a couple of sort of thought-provoking sort of questions for you, really, and some things for you maybe to go away and just consider when you're thinking about your fat intake. So, as always,